another common usage for segment is to load Google Analytics. So we can do that here. So we can jump into the sources, and we already have two existing sources for intercom and mix panel. If you're looking for those ones, you can look at the other video. So let's add Google Analytics as a third destination. So we have our JavaScript source, and we're gonna go here and go find Google Analytics. And now we can configure it. We get some information about it. We're gonna add it to a JavaScript source. And now for connection settings, we get a few options: the website tracking ID, a mobile tracking ID, or server side. In this case, we're gonna use a website tracking ID. So let me hop in here to Google Analytics and go find the property settings. So we need this, and this is the website tracking ID. Go back to segment. If you have a mobile app, you of course do the mobile one and the server side and so on. We have connection mode, which I talked in the previous video, but this basically means that you can choose if you want to load the Google Analytics snippet on your page, just like you would if you were to add the Google Analytics directly to your page, or if you want to do it, keep it in the cloud. So what that would mean is you would load segment on the page, of course, but in device mode, it will also load Google Analytics. So you have two things being loaded, segment and Google Analytics. If you do cloud mode, then you'll have segment, and Google Analytics will not be loaded on the page. Now, data will still be there. It will still get sent to Google Analytics, but there are some limitations, and you get to see it here in the page. But cloud mode is great if you run into page performance issues, especially on the web. So we'll keep it device mode. Let me go back here. I wanted to add it. And okay, so we have information there. And just like any other destination, we have very specific settings here. One interesting for Google Analytics is the anonymized IP addresses. So by default, segment will send IP address information to Google Analytics, but you can actually remove that. You can anonymize them. So that can be kind of interesting. And we have some of the specific features of Google Analytics, like content groupers, the custom dimensions, the enhanced ecommerce, and a few other things that will, we can get through segment. You can see there's quite a few things here. So I'm going to activate this destination. And like any other destinations, it will take some time, usually a couple minutes, for it to load on your page. So let's try refreshing this so we can get a status. Great. So we're enabled now. So let's hop back into our page here. And this is some of the information for the intercom video we were doing. So we refresh it. Now on this page, we're loading the JavaScript snippet. So that snippet looks like this, right? And we're actually loading it to Google Tag Manager. And in that snippet, we have two things. So we're loading segment, which is the analytics.load, and we're loading this source specifically. And then we do analytics.page, and the page method is really a page view method, which is actually what Google Analytics requires. Now Google Analytics can also take events, but the page really is what gives you a lot of information out of the box. So let's hop back and let's refresh it one more time. And we're not seeing anything here. Let's hop into Google Analytics. Now, by the way, we won't see any data. And the reason why is Google Analytics takes some time to process data. For most sites, it's usually in a few hours, but it can be sometimes up to 24 hours. But we do have a real-time event, a real-time report, I would say. So we can see that there's one active user, which is me. And we see some information come in, right? So here's a page view that happened about 2 minutes ago, and then one happened a minute ago. And if we were to do this one more time, we would get to see one more page view appear here in real time. Let's see. So we get to see one more page view appear here in real time, right? So as you can see, we are sending data to Google Analytics, and that data then gets converted just like it would anything else. So we get to see, the information, where we are. We get to see some locations, right? Like country and so on. We can dig into cities. We can see some content. So what page we're viewing. In this case, we're reviewing the home page and the title of the page. We can see traffic sources. In this case, this is a direct view. Now, what's kind of interesting is, we can hop into debugger here for segment, and we can see what this looks like. So we just passed on this 3 different pages when we refresh the page manually. So we can look at the last one. And the analytics page by default collects a lot of information, right? So it'll collect things like the path, the title, the URL, a refer if there is one. In this case, there is no refer. And when we look at the raw of this method, we can see now we have 4 tools bundle: Google Analytics, Intercom, Mixed Panel, and Segment. Here's the anonymous ID. And we have some of the information like some of the properties that get passed on, some of the time, the user agent, which gets converted, IP, and so on. And that's why Google Analytics processes data. It will take the user agent and convert it into a device category, which then you can use, or it'll take the IP and convert it into city and region and so on. So some data needs conversion, others it doesn't. Things like bounce rate, it takes some time to process that. So that's the Google Analytics portion. Now we can also send an event to Google Analytics. So let's try that. So let's do analytics.track for the event, and we're going to call it test event. Now in the Google Analytics world, the first parameter is actually the event action, if I'm correct. Now we can actually go look at every single destination. Let's go find it. And when you implement a destination, this will be the main document you'll be working with, because there's always a few caveats for everyone. So if we go here and we go look at the track calls, we can see that the logged in is actually the event action. And then we can pass a category in the label for event category and event label, right? And event value, of course, will be called value. Google Analytics only supports 4 dimensions on the events. So if you were to pass on a property that's called role, like we did for the Intercom video, it would just not get passed on anywhere. It would just get ignored. It would get dropped, basically. So let's go hop back to Google Analytics here and go look at events. And here's our event action, which we call test event. And by default, it uses an event category called all, right? Now, if we were to pass on a category value, then that would get replaced. So let's try doing that. Let's pass on this exact same event. So we're passing on logged in, a category called account, and a label called premium, and the value of 50. So now we can see this data come in here in real time. We have an event category of account. The event action is logged in, and if you were to kind of log in, dig in a bit deeper, you see the other values. And of course, when the data gets properly processed, it will appear in the event report in Google Analytics. Now, one thing that's to note about Google Analytics is on the identify. By default, Google Analytics actually doesn't let you pass what they call PAI, the personal identifying information, things like emails and names and things like that. So if you were to fire an identify call like we did for Mixed Panel before, and it contains emails and names, that information will actually not get passed to Google Analytics. It will get dropped by segment to protect you. However, if you were to rename it from any of the default traits, it will get passed. So if you were to pass a property called email address, for example, which is not the default trait in segment, it will get passed to Google Analytics. And then that'll be a little bit more of an issue, right? You can, of course, do things like user ID, right? And as segment goes here, the email and name traits here, they will get dropped, but the ID here, it will get passed on, and you can use that. You can use that as a way to identify users. But the part about not passing personal information to Google Analytics is a big one. You can actually get banned by Google Analytics for passing information like that. And there's a few other things. For example, when you set up the enhanced e-commerce, there's a few things that you'll be tracking with special calls and special events, right? So you pass a track call, and it'll be called order completed, and you're gonna pass a few properties and so on. So there's a few things you have to keep in mind if you're gonna be using things like that. You can of course have server side and a few other things. So all in all, just simply loading the segment snippet, and then the Google Analytics destination will give you the default implementation, and then you can build on top of that by adding events and identified calls to do the user ID feature and enhance e-commerce and a few other things.